the AI is going to make you like 5 people in one. That's why you need to use it. That's why someone's going to hire you. That's how we get clients. That's how I can promise clients that, hey, you give me 20 hours and I'm going to get you this done, whereas somebody else is going to tell them it's going to take 2-3 weeks to get done.
Welcome to another video in my channel where we are interviewing the investment banking professionals across the globe. So in this particular interview, we have got Mr. Michael Iannaccone. He is the founder for MDI Investments for the last 30 years. His expertise is in capital raising, M&A strategy making, bridging fintech and banks, where they're more than 100 million plus revenue. So he has served as M&A sell side advisor and a buy side advisor also. So it's great to have you in my in this small podcast, Mike. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
So to start with, I have a couple of questions related to investment banking and related to your background also. So I would like to understand what background you are coming from and what are your key milestones in your last 30 plus years of professional journey.
Sure, yeah. The 30-second rendition of my background is I came out of school and was intrigued by capital markets and information systems. And I worked at a community bank, a regional bank, actually Citicorp's regional office. And then I made it into capital markets and worked on 80 IPOs in the financial services space.
Oh,
I then did equity research analysis, investment banking, and then consulting for fintechs the past 10 years. And my roles at MDI with my clients they've either hired me as a W-2 employee or as a consultant. So I've worked on a number of different projects, from equity and debt offerings to restructurings, forward flow, mergers and acquisitions on the buy and the sell side, and a lot of consulting for strategy and go to market with new products.
Great. So, considering the recent works which you have done, is there any particular deal which is standing out, particularly memorable for you? Anything special about that particular deal? It can be M&A or it can be a capital raise, whichever you can share.
Yes. Well, many people would say I have a very eclectic career, from some memorable things. Memorable was several decades ago working on one of the largest IPOs for a bank. I don't know, it was probably 30 years ago. It was a $1 billion equity offering, which was nothing in today's world, but back then it was massive.
Yeah.
During my equity research days, I had 3 really great stock picks that went up over 400%. In less than 12 months. That was basically doing equity research and financial modeling for companies that everybody else thought were too complex and didn't want to do the financial models. But obviously the clients that followed me were very happy. I would say more recently, other deals. I worked on the privatization of Banespa, which was the Brazilian-owned bank. I sold the last stripped charter before they outlawed them. I worked on balloon charters. I've done a lot of unique things in the financial services space. I would say more recently, probably working on home equity investment contracts, which is a new financing vehicle. It's an alternative to a home equity loan, and it's not a loan. It's more closely affiliated with an options contract. And I've lived that world from its obscurity to where those contracts are being originated, securitized, and getting out publicly rated. So.
Great. Like 30 years back, dealing a 1 billion deal, that's a big deal. Like maybe in the starting of your career, that was like one of the biggest deal you have done, or maybe like in your peer group also that would be one of the biggest deal. Like I am sure.
Yes. So
great. Like time is flying, and I just want to understand like what are your top focus for 2026, and what is driving those priorities. So just want your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I have. I've always straddled two paths in pretty much every single year. I always work on 1 to 2, maybe 3 bank M&A deals. Usually, well, not usually, always for closely held institutions, family-owned or less than 20 investors, and I have 2 deals like that I'm working with. I'm working on the buy side for those deals this year. And then on the fintech side, I just got off a call about this. I've been working on this project or idea for 5 years as a form of down payment contribution to help people buy homes for the missing middle, the people that make too much money that they can't get government programs, but they don't make enough money to be able to afford the house on their own. And I always thought that was an avenue for impact investors, but impact investors never wanted to get involved because there was no economical way for them to get to scale. And I think I've solved that problem. So those are the 2 things that I'll be working on in 2026.
Okay, so I believe like your major focus is in the financial services and the fintech domain. Is that the major area of your expertise?
Yes, that is. And I would say it's probably 80-20. Most of 80% of my time goes to the fintech side, which is all consumer based. So either it's consumer loan driven, payment systems, or having to do with residential housing finance.
Oh, great. So the next question would be around AI. None of my interviews or none of the other interviews also going out without asking the question on AI. So I just want to understand like how are you using AI, or like how data tools are helping you in this process of building the business or like executing the deals. Like how do you see like these tools are helping you in doing it?
I'm going to start with the area that I'm lacking that I think could be enormous, and that would be in writing code. That's going way back to when I had my computer science degree. So I understand how code works, but I'm not adept to actually have AI write the code because I wouldn't know whether the code is correct or not. So that would be an area that I would love to explore in 2026. But the ways that I use AI now for analysis it's extremely helpful to me in researching topics and having it basically be my editor for writing papers and reports. Of course, you always have to check the facts, and you need to know how to use AI for it to list its sources so you know that the sources are correct, and you just can't take what it writes and send it out. But it's also great for helping you also do data analysis, for either using your own database of analysis or getting sources of that data and then using it to effectively visualize the data. Much like several years ago, I learned how to use Tableau, but you could do a lot of the things that you used to do in Tableau with just AI products off the shelf. So I think that helps smaller companies be much more effective and more efficient, because AI is a lot less expensive than a person or a team of people. Now, certain areas where in the B2B, I can see AI for marketing and for chatbots is something that you would use potentially in the retail world, but I don't know how effective that would be in the B2B world, because that's I just happen to think it's much more relationship driven, but I could be wrong. I could be called a dinosaur. So,
to add on to that question, so right now in the market there are multiple data tools available. Like we are one of them, Tracxn is one of them, and there are other tools also available in the market. So I just want to ask this thing, like you are in the industry for last 30 plus years. So how you were doing a buyer identification or an investor identification like 30 years back, when you don't know, like you cannot go to a system and click on a button and see, okay, this is a list of my buyers. So how you used to identify buyers or identify investors like 30 years back? Just out of my curiosity, I wanted to ask this question.
So you're asking me what my older self would have said to my younger self?
No, like 30 years back, how you used to do your business, because at that time the technology is not that grown. Like there is no option where it's a database is there.
Well, when you say that, I remember one of my bosses who became one of my mentors, and he said, it's not good enough just for you to work harder. You have to work smarter, and you have to be more efficient. And my answer to that at that point in time, when, again, really showing my age, you didn't have a lot of databases. A lot of things were on paper, or if they were databases, they were on CD-ROM and floppy disks. I don't know how many people are going to see this, but so what that meant to me, how I took that was, okay, I have to be smarter. So I would basically take other people, I would work late in the office, and I would take other people's PCs and put them and wheel them into my office and have multiple computers running at the same time, but different tasks. So when they completed their tasks, I can consolidate all the information and then put it out. So that was my way of working smarter and being more efficient. So
that's really smart of you.
Another thing that I did back then that a lot of other people didn't do is when you set up a spreadsheet or a database, most people would set it up for just the task that they were doing. So there was a lot of hard coding. But even back then, and this probably came back from my computer science degree, is that when you set up the spreadsheet, you always have like your info sheet that explains what the workbook's about, the nomenclature, any special definitions, how you highlight it, like what certain colors mean, what certain highlights mean. And then you propagate that through your spreadsheet, and your spreadsheet or your database is always very dynamic. So you could always come back to it and change it. And that made me much more efficient than many other analysts at the time. So
that's great. Like definitely your computer science background might have helped in doing that also.
Yeah.
That's great.
I would say in today's world, you think that that's antiquated. That's what I try and impress upon the younger people coming into investment banking or who want to get into the space. I keep on telling them, you have to use AI. All of the programs in AI that are free, at some point, they're not going to be free. And even in the ones, I use Copilot a lot. I have a paid subscription to that. And I keep on trying to get my younger staff to use it. And they like, no, what's the thing they call it? Where the machines are going to take over the world. They have a special word for that. And I'm like, no, the AI is going to make you like 5 people in one. That's why you need to use it. That's why someone's going to hire you. That's how we get clients. That's how I can promise clients that, hey, you give me 20 hours and I'm going to get you this done. Whereas somebody else is going to tell them it's going to take 2-3 weeks to get done. So, but they don't listen to me. So
actually, that was my next question also. Like, what's your advice for someone who is stepping into the investment banking world? That's that's the next question in my mind. You have already answered that. So
I would say, this is what What I wish somebody would have told me when I was going to school, I didn't really learn this until I went to grad school, which was, I don't know, 15 years after me graduating from college. It's like, you always want to do more work than you think is required, because someone is always going to ask that extra question that the person who did the work that was required is not going to know the answer to. And that extra bit of work, so always read more than is required. Always explore the envelopes of things that are tangential to the idea, and always keep an open mind, and use all of the tools that are available to you. That's what I would tell people. Never turn down an interview. Never turn down a meeting. Always try and learn from something. That's your job. You're going to make mistakes. There's always going to be an error in a presentation. Learn from it and use that as you step forward through life.
Definitely, that's one of the greatest advice which you can give to the younger generation who is like planning to step into the investment banking. Not even investment banking, like any sector they're operating, any job they are entering into it. So this is something like combine the hard work and the smart work, and that's how we can be on the top 1%. So thanks a lot, Mike, for taking your time out of the busy schedule and spending like 20 minutes with me in this podcast. So thanks a lot.
Sure.
From myself and from the team at Tracxn, I would like to thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a great day.